kumbozvitaura kuti munhu anenge achitouyawo ari at a lesser level achitofilawo kuti muri kumubatsira muri muchengeta vamwe vanobva vati mwana angu kana kuti muzukuru wangu whatever saka akuda chinozoextenda to that, so that is actually domestic.
So they get a protection order.
They get a protection
from their
order.
employee.
Yes,
from their employer.
From their employer, sorry, yes. So they actually go kuti vaprotect.
Why not leave? Like,
mwana sina basa.
Ubango chidogara ipapo. Ane protection order kugara ipapo.
Yeah, because the protection order, the importance, the protection order is the story that, the court is not saying separate. Who are not separating. So you have an option to leave, but if you feel you don't have an option to leave, then the
stay,
court
but you're protected.
Exactly, but you're protected. Okay. So I always say, kuti mutemoka, mutema unene vanhu. Like
so kuzenda nitty-gritty dzekuzoti iwewe wadi kumboenda
iwo chokuzopinda mumba menyu susati sida zvopinda mumba menyu isusu. But if you are kana une order ka mutemo unotopfuura uchikuonawo muri kuserukwa nditika muri payard penyu. But the minute you start to have no order, the minute you start to overstep the rights of other people, then the law will knock at your door, and organize you. Apana munhu afana kuorganizwa mumba make, afana kuorganizwa traffic, kuorganizwa,
kana ya domestic.
But domestic, it should generally, people should handle their domestic affairs properly. Saka ukazona mutemo wakupinda chitoziva kuti patone problem, iwo watotadza kuhandla your issues, So we, as we go, through the weeks, tichitaura about abuse and what domestic violence says. We'll talk about sexual offenses, cultural offenses, financial offenses, my abuses esarikitwa social, and all the akawandisa, stalking, harassment, etc. So we'll get more into that. But today,
stalking your own husband.
Yes. Yes.
We'll get to that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. But today you say.
But today we say physical, and so when we're talking about physical abuse and physical domestic violence, I think the most obvious thing kutokutorovana chaiko zvibhakera mambama and kusundidzirwa, kulokerwa out pamba, ngwana make atochinjwa.
When people go through the most days.
People go through terrible things, and sakapa, I'm just saying it so that pana vamwe vanhu who are going through what they're going through and they actually have not put it in the correct pigeonhole, kuti this is physical abuse, apa ndiri ndatokanganiswa panapa, and of course verbal abuse, right? We want to talk about verbal abuse as well. And I always say that people who abuse, kashoma kuti munhu anongosvika orova munhu mbama asina kumbokudza shamai vako, asina you know what I mean, zviri mukati nezviri kunze. So nobody says aiwa inini kwangu inini specialty yangu ndeyekuverbal. Asi handizosvikangu
kuphysical.
An abuser is an abuser. You know what I mean? Usually a person who physically abuses the wife or the husband will also abuse the children. Azomire kuti aiwa ndingori kuvakadzi chete kuvana handibati. So that person who's an abuser is their character of abuse, right? And they will abuse even the house help, the maid. They will abuse the gardener. They will kick the dog. Do you know what I mean? They're just a person who's violent. They're aggressive. They don't respect other people's boundaries, and they don't respect other people's rights. And a person who will be sexually offending someone, they will also physically offend. They will also verbally offend. They're just an abuser. And I think why we need to, especially women who are under that kind of thing, because in terms of statistics, vakadzi vanofesa abuse at the hands of men more than men at the hands of women. Now we need to be very, very clear. There are a lot of men who are facing abuse.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might not be physical. Kune vamwe anotorohwa chaiko chaiko zvonzi baba ava tinotovaziva vepa next door apa mutonzi achiridza mhere, nemudzimai handitika. But tiri kubvira statistically, so we're not diminishing the abuses that happen against men, but at the same time we are actually saying statistically there are more women who are facing abuse at the hands of men. And so why we say it's important, like we're going to be talking about just how important it is to do something about the abuse that you're going through. Very important, because kana vana vachiona vakakura mu family ine abuse, it's crazy, because 50% of those children who grew up in an abusive family tend to become abusers themselves. And I always wonder, kuti hapana chimukomana maybe chinenge chine 14 years chiri kuona mai vari kurohwa nditika chichitondodefenda mai, chitoti baba aiwa, and he swears kuti inini pandichakura inini mudhara uyo ndichadhila naye, now I'm small and I'm of a small stature and chinchin. But funny enough, so it's like such a psychological thing,
And then it becomes a cycle, ripple effects, and it's sad, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they say,
because if you're to really trace, hurt people.
Hurt people.
Yeah. So if you're to really trace, like most abusive people, to trace their background in childhood, they grew up in those homes. So you're really right.
And that is so true. And I suppose for even if before you get married, it's very important to actually understand, Kuti, what kind of family did this person grow up in, because their inclinations, we call them proclivities, they have a propensity towards reflecting what they experienced when they were growing up.
I guess it's only a small margin or percentage of people who then decide to take up a different life altogether to say, I never want to be like this man.
And this is where there's an intervention. Like say we have a program like this and somebody says, because, so it's probably connected to how I grew up, to what I saw with my big brother who was abusing me, or, to what I saw with, even my house helps. I know they can be victims, but they have also been known to be terrible perpetrators on Vana.
Yes.
And I'm sure we'll talk about sexual violence later, and then just give my examples of that. And then you have Stockholm syndrome, where they now want to protect Sisi.
They abuse them. You
know how it is, because that's just the position that they have. But that position, with responsibility, it can cause absolute damage within a family.
So we're going to take a musical break, Advocate Nyari, and we'll be right back. It is Legal Matters right here. Star FM sounding good all the time. Legal Matters right here on the Morning Galaxy. We have Advocate Nyari talking about the domestic violence. Actually, today we're looking at physical and verbal abuse. To pick up from where we left off, Advocate Nyari.
Okay. So this is what I say, just because I have you guys, under the audience of my voice, I have to say that it is so important that the first time that you start to experience abuse, you do something about it. This is what I say, if we can.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because nobody starts with shooting someone. We've had so many instances in the newspapers. There's a person akatora futi akapura mudzimai nevana akazoshishuta iye. That's the ultimate physical violence, when somebody kills you. And so this is what we would like to tell everybody. Could you listen to me? I'm saying this as a lawyer. Could we've seen too much. Muno anotanga akutuka, and if they can shout at you and call you names and bring you down, and they are belittling you. No one can abuse somebody that they have not dehumanized. So it's the process of dehumanization. They've taken you from a human being who is a child of God, who is a citizen of Zimbabwe, who is a person who can make an impact, in this country and in the world. And they've made you something, they've whittled you down to something that is really small, and then that can do with as they please. So is that process of dehumanization where you should stop it.
You like, can't speak to me like this.
Yeah, you can't talk to me like this, I mean, I remember, and I'll just say this, this is like an aside, but I remember there was a gentleman, I think, this Mongo, especially. So, he came to me, and, he was sending me text messages. It's like, So I like you. So I'm like, you are not girlfriend, you know, that was like a long time ago, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then akati ndine girlfriend. Said, saka inini kulaika kuri kureve yuku, you know. She can. Oh, I was wondering if you didn't mind cheating on my girlfriend with me. Andinoona kutaura kunetsa munhu ka. My response, a normal girl would be like, hey, do you think I'm that kind of a person? Hey, you can't say that about me. My friend, if you knew who you were talking to, you would choose your words more carefully.
Come on,
La
love
pets
that.
I'm like, and that set the pace for the friendship that we had.
If you knew who you were talking to,
if you knew who you were,
you change your tone.
Hey,
wow.
You know, and because that's not how girls react. So with the first time somebody starts talking to you like that, patotanga process here dehumanization. You know, they've brought you down to from being a queen, they want you to be groveling. And the next thing kana munhu apasa sapa ndokunomkava. Ndokunomrova. Ndokunoita shandoda naye. You understand?
Yeah,
so
that's
it's important because the first time that this abuse starts coming, ngapaite mashura, ngapaite mabanangana, munhu ngazive kuti hazviitwe izvozvo, you know, hazvitomboitwe. And kuti panapa rowi munhu pano, you know, because this is what we said, this is what I said. Kuti, the first time abuse happens, you know, because there's a time where it starts, you know. The first time it happens, whether mashoko, kana kuti somebody has pulled your hair, you know, kana kuti somebody akusundidzira, you know, the first time you are a victim. Musonorowambama iwe pokutanga musi awo apana munhu akangoaona kusharuwa uchirowambama.
Yes.
Musi munhu paanotanga kukukwana energy yekukurova so you are a victim. The second time it happens, you are an accomplice. Wakutomubvumidza, wakutomubatsira kukuabuse iwewe.
What accomplice? I was
still a victim. You know, because the first time it happens is one time too many times. You understand?
Yes.
And so, when something like that happens, it's important to do something about it. It's so important. Oh, you know, munanoya because you know, pane cycle of abuse. Munano kurova, then what is sorry, and I'm so sorry. You know, I know 2-3 days. You know.
You pushed me. I really didn't mean to do that. I'm not that
so
sort of
sorry.
person.
I don't know what got me. If only you hadn't done this. And the thing with abusers, they then throw it back at you.
And to like it, they're naturally not that sort of person, and they were pushed.
Exactly. I don't know. I was drunk. Akuna munhu anoita zvinhu ari drunk zvaanga asingazombofunge kuti aite, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's so important that you actually do, and that's why we're not saying direct yourself to the courts, get a protection order, okay, immediately. Right? It's also a criminal offense. Okay? The physical abuse is a criminal offense. And you can go to a social worker, you can go to the police and report, and they will take it up as a criminal case. And it munhu anotoenda kujere and anotopiwa together with an order kunotoiswa a warrant of arrest. Iri kuti ukangoita zvinhu izvozvo for the next 5 years, my friend, uri kuenda kujere. That's how serious it is. So you can be protected by the law. You don't need to go through it. Ndinorwadziwa.
Kuvanozonocancela ma-cases akufilira munhu sorry.
Well, you know, some of those cases is like, I know we're going to talk about rape cases, you know. My cases you know what I mean. Yes, you can cancel.
But they abuse some of them, you know, then withdraw.
They abuse, withdraw hako, but get a protection order. You know, you don't need to. You can withdraw your criminal io, but protection order, get a protection order. So that munano dila arikupiwa my boundaries to deal with you.
Got a message here, advocate, saying mukadzi anorambidzwa kuenda kuchurch kutaura nevanhu pafone even to do my projects ari pamba. Is that abuse? If so, how can one go about it?
That's financial abuse. And we said we're going to talk about it, and because we don't have much time.
Okay.
That we just want to talk about physical abuse and verbal abuse. We'll talk about it. Keep listening, Kuchirongwa, and because we want to delve into everything, you know, holistically. So each person knows, because it's not just the instances that you are mentioning, you know, the person who sent a message. There's so many other instances, so let's deal with them together when we're dealing specifically with financial, what's name, yeah. So now, What I said was a person doesn't start with shooting someone. And abuse unogona kuti ndamuregerera, you know, iwewe ka hausi sacrificial lamb. Basa rako harisiri kuregerera munhu ari kukukanganisira. You understand what I mean? You can forgive, but within the context of protecting yourself and protecting your children. I worry about women who are so weak within their relationships that they expose their children. I remember there's a girl. Because kanamuri vaviri, that's why chinzi vabereki ngavaite two, so that another one tempers another one down, you know. Maybe wewe utoriwo nezvawo nema-issues ako, uyu maybe ane violence, iwe utoriwo nema-issues ako, anditika ekuti maybe unotaura language isina kunaka kuvana or something. Murume wanoya oti mai mukataurawo nevana zvakadaro here. You know, zvinobatsira kana vana vachikura, you temper each other down, right? So it's important kuti kana mwana achikanganiswa kana kuti pano vamwe vaya vanoita kupanhira vana kumadziro. Have you seen vanhu vanorova vana weekend? Vana vanorohwa
achipedzera shungu dzake
pamwana. Iwewe because utoriwo scared and you are also a victim, hausitokwanisa kuprotecta mwana. I know there's a girl who was like about 23, and she said to me, Ininika, I've got issues with my dad. My dad is a great guy, you know, like he's a wonderful guy. But the issue I have with my dad is he did not protect us from my mom. Maya vairova, vaipopota, vaisunga msha wese. And there are women who do that, you know, they're so toxic. And all the kids grew up under that toxic environment. And they started to see kuti vamwe vanga vakuacta samai vavo. They were just, you know, mentally unstable, emotionally injured. And I don't know what to do, because it's like I can't really pinpoint and say my dad did this. But in I told my sins of omission, and
yes, because he couldn't protect us. We felt he could have.
He could have, and he's the only person that we had. But you know, I'm going to abuse. You know, and that's another form of abuse, hey, like huge abuse. And you had maybe just to talk my emotional abuse. Could somebody cheated? Kana mnakambo cheata ka, iwe you are free kusiyana naye. But kana mazowira not murukudzokera. Don't make his life miserable for the
also,
rest of his life.
But then the men who actually for life
you know,
sentence.
You know, muri ukoko makutotidzosera kumashure. Nokuti mune nyaya dzenyu dzamoziva. Nyaya idzodzo dzakaitwa dzikatopera asikana. You know, so a lot of women are genuinely, honestly abusing men. You know, and kana intrungo tango kana wanatsozvifungisisa mupfungwa dzako kuti I have forgiven this person. We want to carry on from here. Let the matter end. Let it not be an eternal reference point. Yekuti munhu asisina position mumba kana kuti achitaurawo chinyi kana kuti you know, I'm telling you. So anyway, we know that in our country we've had, like I say, people killing spouses, whether it's male or female. It's happened, you know, too many times, really. And I think what's important is for somebody to know kuti abuse or domestic violence haiperi until somebody kills you. It's degenerative. If I allowed him to pana anodhonzwa mabraids achipa. I mean, I've heard, yes, kutobvisa kudeo so yes. And munhu anokudza kuti nandinzwisise madzimai vanotaura kuti nini I've been under physical abuse nemurume uyu kauyu. And that's the most common, by the way. Nemurume uyu for the past 4 years. Weekend inini one day ndinenge ndatobo. You know, kunzi ndarohwa. Then that's all right. You know, why should anybody hit me? But unoona munhu anozvimba maziso, opora, opfeka mashades, oisa makeup, they move on.
Shame.
Next day she kuitika, the next day she kuitika for 4 years. Come on,
I think
guys.
like the Stockholm syndrome is actually really real.
It's real.
Where after I got a message here saying Anzi advocate, my friend I don't want the husband and she still won't report him because he keeps apologizing with things. What can I do as a friend and as a woman to the next to help her? Because it's easy to then say, just to walk, but then sometimes I don't know what then pulls people back to actually can't walk. Because like you say, they start with verbal abuse to reduce you, to say that you're nothing, and then you start really accepting that and thinking, Kuti, outside of their
nothing.
existence, I'm nothing, and where can I go?
Yeah. No, precisely. So, my dear Ka, Mono, who is a victim, has to have the strength to go and report. They have to have the strength to leave. If, like I always say, I always say this, kuti vazhinji madzimai anoti ndogarira vana vangu hapana apo munhu anogarira vana vake weekend ndochokwadi chiripo. Let's just
start with
munhu anogarira mari, anogara because haana ma-options. So within a marriage, it's important that you give yourself options. And I say this to both men and women, kuti have some kind of financial independence. Usually it's finances. Munhu anogara aripo, yes, anogona kuda munhu wake achidini, tina ma-exceptions. But the general rule is kuti vanhu havasiye misha yavo because haana mari yekundorenda somewhere. And kana munhu, and usually people can be very vindictive kuti wabva toda kuona kuti vanhu vachona handichatombobhadhari school fees, uchiona kuti munhu anotoona kuti ndinosuffer financially worse if I leave, handiti. But physically you're still suffering. Mentally, a lot of women these days vari kuita ma-mental challenges, like mental kutorwara pfungwa chaiko chaiko, ma-BP awa, ma-pharmacies vapinda mu-business because vanhu vari mu-BP nenyaya yezviri kuitika mudzimba arimo. And zvechinzi chakafungidza dzimba matenga, gomera urimo, mukadzi kwayo. We sang a song, with Breeze. Inonzi vane nema, yeah, maybe you should play it one of these days. Inonzi vane nema, where we like, unoziva zvako kuti, one of the words is like, unoziva iwewe kuti, ugere nemhondi, asi yakabvise danga. Munhu akatobvisa fumo, but imhondi. And what do people say to you? Vanoti shingirira mukadzi kwaye hafu kuri hapwa.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, iwe chingozvisa pasi pemurume wako, ndio zvaari munamatire. Hi guys, we have to go beyond that. Surely, we have to do something, because ultimately, like I said, hakuna munhu anongotanga nekupfura munhu. Hakuna munhu anotanga kubaya munhu 26 times. We know that has happened. Kubaya mukadzi wako.
Exactly.
Nobody starts with that. It starts with like inching forward, and each time you are allowing them to do something worse, you are giving them permission to carry on. So we teach people how to treat us by what we tolerate.
That's true.
And that's just it. So
and I can get away with this. Damupa is slip. She's back. Damupa chakat.
Exactly.
Adzoka. Hapana kwaita, hapana zvaitika. And then that's it.
Precisely. So domestic violence just generally does not end unless you do something about it. And the first thing that you actually need to do, guys, I know it's uncomfortable and everything, but is to move away from the place of abuse. Chimboendawo kwatete, anditi chimboendawo kwasisi, kana kuti chimboseparetai momboita counseling, because munhu ari kuita abuse, it's actually a mental disorder. It's not normal, but we have normalized it. Tototi handiti ndo zvinongoitika here mudzimba. Pane vamwe vakadzi vanototi, especially vekuchechi, madzimai ekuchechi, please stop telling vana kuti hanzi shinga, muchivataridza maring enyu kuti hanzi inini uri kuona ring iyi ndichitorimo 33 years, inini ring yako haine nekurohwa kwandiri kuitwa. I need to know my options, and that's why we have the Domestic Violence Act, where the law has said, izvanyanya izvi, we need to step up. And kare waenda kumapurisa akachonzi zvemudzimba hatidhile nezvemudzimba. It was like zvemudzimba zvinhu zvasinakosha, But now they have been forced to take up criminal cases from domestic violence. And the courts, in the civil court, they are giving protection orders so that chero sichiti hako handisida kubva pamba, but munhu anofanira kuziva kuti ndikangobata munhu uyu ndikangoita hasha dzangu idzodzi kana kuti ndikaita zvandaita ndiri kutoenda kujera.
So it's important to get that protection order.
Very, very important. You know, very important. And kana vari vana, you can go to social welfare. Vanotokupa a social worker who will be dedicated to this particular case, and they will actually assist you kwenda kukoti kudini from social welfare. So there is hope, you know, there is help, but you need to have the courage to move. And this friend wayangachibvunza kudini wose shamari yakanaka, taura naye, taura uchita agonize naye kuti shamari do this, chapesera wakutourawa, chapesera vana vako vachikura kudai vachapesera vakutora character yababa vavo because you're not protecting them, character yamai vavo, because you're not stepping up. You know?
And my husband is very abusive, and my pastor is telling me to fast and pray. The way my husband abuses me, I'm in the second marriage, and I don't compare with his previous wife. And just different messages that we are getting here. And they could my braids iriko, and they got to itika or even name and my braids with that nakuzombomera. So people are going really through the most.
And you know the other thing, you know, I know a couple yokuti mukadzi akarwadziwa kuti murume had moved out of home, saka aingozoya uzona vana chete nekuvaendesa kuchikoro and whatnot. So she got really hurt kuti hapati takatanga kudanana tiri college ka iwe wakutodana nomwe munhu, you know, automutengera flat because zvinhu zvako zvaakuita, you know, and she poured acid on him. Ma physical abuse kari kuti akamudira acid. He had to go and get this and that, like those fake eyes. He had to
then it's deformed, his face is not the same.
Saka vanhu kapana anodirwa mafuta kumusana kwetombozviona pasocial media kuti neiveduweshi kweshi mwanobhoilera munhu mvura.
Imagine him chijojo name to get to that extent.
It's terrible. Vanorovana nemigoti ushakuti saka munhu ari kubatirwa Bennett kuti zviite sei exactly, you know, machete, you know, wakabatira. But you know, a lot of these things that happen, they happen in retaliation. You know, like hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. A lot of women abuse men from retaliation. You know, saka mirishonga mudzimba boko shindi, please.
Boko shindi.
You know, mirishonga de boko shindi.
Advocate, I wish we had more time, but then I really can't wait for next week as we continue on this. For those who want to get in touch, where to find you?
0774 344 527. Please talk to my PA Tandy, and try not to call. Just text, and I think we are replying almost everybody who's contacting us. And Facebook, Advocate Nyari Maposa, and all the other social media handles, guys, come and let us talk.
Thank you so much for your time. We were live on Facebook. You can go watch this and share it with someone. Taking our time to 11 o'clock. Star FM, it is time for the news.
This is Zim Paper's Radio Broadcasting News.